My name is Mike. I'm a salaryman working for a major corporation. I haven't been with the corporation for very long, but our corporation operates on what you'd call a meritocracy. Even if you're young, if your performance is recognized, you can be entrusted with significant tasks. I like to think I have more ambition than most, and as a result, I've been given larger deals to handle. But of course, it's not just my own efforts. I believe it's also thanks to the help I get from those around me. However, there's one thing that bothers me, and that's the presence of an unbelievable boss. I don't mean to boast about my abilities, and as I've said, I often seek help from others. I don't believe that I can do everything on my own. That kind of thinking would only lead to ruin. But with this boss, no matter what, I just can't bring myself to bow down to him. This boss, well, he doesn't do anything himself but loves to throw his weight around because he's the boss, taking credit for others' work as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Just the other day, after a significant deal was concluded, this boss came to me and said something like this.
Looks like this deal was sealed thanks to my advice. Well, you did pretty well yourself, haha. But make sure you tell the president it was thanks to me, okay? Don't want anyone thinking you did it all by yourself. That would just be unbearable,
Hearing that, I couldn't help but respond sharply.
The information you advised me on turned out to be incorrect when I checked it. I almost lost the client's trust by getting called out on that mistake. Luckily, I noticed it in advance and averted the issue. Shall I pass that on to the president as well?
At that, my boss's face visibly contorted with irrational anger.
Don't you talk back to me, you insolent subordinate. Young people these days have no common sense. Instead of complaining about mistakes, you should be thankful for the fact that I gave you advice. You keep grumbling without even saying thank you. If you keep acting so cocky, you'll end up getting into trouble.
Hearing my boss's words, I was just astounded at how off-topic he was and how he kept making these poor excuses. It made me think he probably didn't even realize how absurd he sounded, and was just shouting in a forceful tone and acting as if he was in the right. Facing such a boss, I realized that arguing would be futile, so to quickly end the conversation, I said, "Thank you for your advice. I have another meeting, so please excuse me," and left.
The boss, still with a contorted face, spat out, "Do you even appreciate it? Your attitude towards your superiors is all wrong. You're just lucky the deal went through this time. Don't get too cocky."
But it's laughable. He tries to claim credit for deals, even though he doesn't even have any scheduled himself and spends his afternoons slacking off. He deserves to face consequences someday. This boss knows how to suck up to those above him, pretending to be competent. Since I don't go running to other bosses or the president about him, he gets even more arrogant. I think, eventually, when my patience runs out and everything comes to light, I think that boss will be completely done for. But until that moment, I'm planning to keep a lot of things bottled up. Honestly though, I don't have the time to deal with him. I'm busy with deals every day, and on days without them, I'm improving my skills. Instead of wasting time on him, I'll prove my competence to everyone else. While I don't completely ignore him, seeing his face does irritate me. But arguing with him is pointless as he won't listen and will only engage more. So, I've decided it's better to surpass him and let my results speak for themselves. A while later, I received a very big deal and am currently busy preparing for it. It's a stressful but fulfilling time. Plus, thankfully, that boss has been keeping a low profile. This deal involves $20 million, practically the fate of our corporation, and it's my first time handling something of this magnitude. I'm quite nervous and being very careful in my preparations. Even that boss seems to understand the importance of this deal, so he's not bothering me as usual, though he's still slacking off. When I was assigned this deal, he didn't seem too pleased and made some unnecessary comments.
I'm looking forward to seeing how someone like you, who relies solely on luck, manages this deal. Just focus on your preparations. If you mess this up, you can say goodbye to your career.
He approached me with words that felt almost like a threat, but honestly, I didn't give it much mind. I had to make this deal work no matter what, so worrying about his comments wasn't an option. I was feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. It was my responsibility this time, and I doubted he could claim the success as his own, but since he's technically my boss, he would be present at the negotiation. I just hoped it wouldn't turn into a mess. If the deal fell through because of him, I'd probably resent him for the rest of my life. The other day, he did nothing himself and left it all to me, but he always acts so confident in front of the boss, saying, "Leave it to me. I'll definitely make this $20 million deal a success." In every deal, he would superficially handle the progress, but when it came to the crucial parts, he would completely delegate them to me. Witnessing him boast so confidently left me utterly speechless. I figured he might prepare a little this time, but most of it relied on my preliminary work, and I knew he'd never admit that, always spouting convenient lies. Uncertain of the outcome, I was determined to make the deal a success. Then, on the morning of the negotiation, he called me in and said something unbelievable.
"You know, if this deal succeeds, it's all thanks to me. If you say anything unnecessary and embarrass me, you'll regret it."
Incredibly, he was claiming all the credit for the deal before it even started, which made me push back.
"I did most of the preparation for this deal. How can you claim all the credit?"
As expected, he flew off the handle.
"Shut up. Don't talk back to me. It's decided that a subordinate's achievements belong to his boss. If you're so upset, try to surpass me. Just keep your mouth shut from now on."
His unreasonable words finally made me snap. "All right, I won't say anything more."
"Yeah, that's right. Keep it that way. You should just quietly hand over the credit to me. Learn to show some respect for your boss."
My boss didn't understand the intention behind my words and kept insisting I shouldn't speak anymore, so I decided I wouldn't open my mouth during the negotiation. As the meeting started, my boss, as always, took the lead, and when it came time to present, he turned to me.
"All right, Mike, the presentation is all yours."
It was a total pass-off, but I kept to my decision and didn't say a word. This seemed to irritate him as he hurried me along.
"Come on, Mike, what are you spacing out for? Start the presentation now."
That's when I responded, "You told me not to say anything, so I am just watching your presentation. Please proceed without minding me." The boss started sweating and getting flustered.
"What? I told you to present. Just read what you've prepared."
Pretending not to notice his panic, I calmly said, "Whether you present or I do, the content should be the same, so please, go ahead." Then my boss started sweating buckets, began a patchy, whole-written presentation, and got bombarded with questions from the client. Of course, he wasn't prepared to answer any of them. Panicked, he shouted at me.
"Answer the client's questions. You can do that much, can't you?"
To which I also responded with a straight face, "No, I cannot say anything. You told me not to speak earlier." The client then asked what was going on, and my boss tried desperately to cover it up.
"This man, he's a bit off. Maybe he's just tired from overworking. Could we possibly reschedule for another day?"
Naturally, the client became angry, saying there was plenty of time to prepare. My boss, fearing the $20 million deal would fall through because of him, desperately grabbed my shoulder, pleading with a look for help.
"Hey, just drop it and talk like you always do, please."
It was then I finally spoke up, as if I had been waiting for the moment. "Are you sure? If I take over, you can't claim it as your achievement like you always do." The client, having grasped the whole situation, gave my boss an icy stare, leaving him frozen. I went on with the presentation without him, answered all the client's questions perfectly, and the presentation ended successfully. My boss didn't utter a word till the end, looking quite withdrawn. It was the first time I had seen the boss like that, and I thought he must be quite embarrassed. Of course, I shared the outcome with the president immediately and reported my boss's outrageous behavior. The president probably couldn't ignore it since the client had also requested it, but the person in charge was immediately transferred to another supervisor. It's likely that my boss's past performance will also be re-evaluated due to this incident. As for me, even though it was to reprimand my boss, I had taken a disrespectful attitude towards the client. Therefore, I later sincerely apologized for that matter. However, the client understood everything, so they didn't blame me and shook hands, which put my mind at ease. The reason I was able to do something like that to my boss was partly because I couldn't stand it anymore, but also because I had the confidence to make the presentation a great success myself. The president also praised me, and only that particular boss will receive punishment. Not only was the boss removed from his responsibilities, but I believe he will face some proper consequences afterward. My boss seems anxious, but I'm eagerly awaiting the outcome. A few days later, my boss's punishment was decided, and in the end, not only was he removed from the negotiation, but he was also demoted and transferred to another department. It was the best outcome possible. The department he was sent to was one I had only heard of for the first time, seemingly a place where employees who had messed up were temporarily placed, far removed from any promotion track. From what I've heard, employees sent there might either be transferred to some remote location or remain in the department until their retirement, like the company's own prison. Just thinking about it gave me chills, though it was entirely his own doing. While I hope he does well in his new department, I also think it's impossible not to regret being sent there. Soon after his transfer was confirmed, he came to see me.
You might have heard, but my transfer is confirmed. I don't want to go there. I apologize for everything, so could you help me return?
Despite being clearly impossible, there seemed to be no other option but to ask me. However, I coldly rejected him. That's quite convenient for you. I wish you the best in your new department. He ran off with a look of deep regret, but honestly, I felt incredibly satisfied. As a consequence of these circumstances, it seems that I will be able to work in peace without any interruptions from now on.